Murtaza, tell us when we are good to go.
Yes, yes. 1 second. I'll Pawan, you can if you can move down your this thing, your shutter. हाँ
अभी
थोड़ा
ठीक
सा.
है?
हाँ हाँ अभी ठीक है.
हम्म,
1 मिनट मैं देख लेता हूँ रिकॉर्डिंग स्टार्ट हुआ ना. रिकॉर्डिंग रिकॉर्डिंग. ठीक है. या वी कैन स्टार्ट नाउ.
ठीक है. Done. Hi Vishal.
Hey Pavan, very good morning. How are you?
I'm good, Vishal. Thank you so much for your time
My
last time.
pleasure.
Yeah, Vishal,
Pleasure.
last time we spoke about, the lot of categories of the customer, and we spoke about a very interesting category for customer where the customer has a pain but no requirement, right?
Hmm.
Now, when I was reflecting upon this with the team, there was a lot of questions about how can we talk about this? What do we do at this stage? And when customer has a pain, how do we find out? Or what does this even mean that customer has a pain but no requirement? What is a sales professional supposed to do?
Hmm.
Right? And then someone spoke about another word called creating urgency. Now, I
Hmm.
wasn't sure if they're related, they're not related. Would you really want to demystify both the things for me and what stage of sales would really be this, ideally a customer be?
Sure.
So if you can take a few minutes to just demystify these three things for me, largely that would help.
Sure, sir. Yeah. Thank you so much. And these are all pertinent questions, real life scenarios. And if you could recall last time we had mentioned, right? Okay, category one, two, it's like a batting on a batting pitch. And category three, four were like a batting on a bowling pitch, right? So here you mentioned about the fourth category, right? Where the customer is a pain, problem, concern, issue, hassles, at times interest also. Now, as a seller, you might have a solution, right? You might have some product, some service, some solution, but not necessarily customer is a requirement. So let me repeat. The customer is a pain, problem, concern, interest. You might have a solution, but the customer does not have a requirement. And this is where I feel it's like a batting on a bowling pitch. Okay, because the customer may still be falling in your ideal customer profile. Now the client has a pain, but not a requirement. And this is where the creating customer urgency comes from. And here for this conversation, Pawan, I would say, okay, let's remain focused on creating customer urgency from suspect to opportunity stage. Now, creating customer urgency can happen throughout the order also. Okay, like a between negotiation to order stage also, but it will fall predominantly into like a tactical things. कि मेरा ये scheme आज की date में valid है, this pricing is valid only for, so will not get into those kind of scenarios. So I'm saying let's remain focused on CCU, creating customer urgency between suspect to order stage, and especially, and this actually applies to your category 4 customer. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Tom?
Yeah, it does. I think you said suspect to order, suspect to opportunity.
Sus okay, sorry, my apologies.
Yeah.
Suspect to opportunity.
Okay.
Yes, I
Okay.
meant suspect to opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks for clarifying. Sorry, you want me to share?
Yeah,
Uh,
Vishal, I wanted to go a little more deeper into this that now we understand we are talking about creating customer urgency
yeah,
and it is going to apply to category 4 customer and from suspect to, call it
opportunities.
opportunity stage.
Yes,
But could you just take a little more time to explain what does this creating customer
sure,
urgency
sure.
actually mean, right?
So I'll try to make it. I'll try to simplify this. Okay, though it is actually okay. This requires a lot of observation, a lot of skills for salespeople also, and that's why I always say it's a batting on a bowling pitch. But the way because day in and day out, right, and last quite a few years, we have been working with sales organizations, sales leaders, sales people. And this is where it struck me that there is a method to this madness. How the great sales guys, they respond to these category of customers who have a pain problem but not a requirement, vis-a-vis all others. Yeah. So based on this, we created a framework for it. I mean a five pronged approach, right? 5-step framework. So step number one, the great sales guys do in their mind, they first understand what is the customer's current need development stage, or first where customer is in his or her decision making stage. So that's the first one. So they very quickly understand that this customer is at implicit stage and not necessarily at explicit stage. So that is the first one. Most sales guys, they are not able to identify that, right? Now, the second part, once the first part is taken care, they realize the customer is at implicit need stage. The second step of this framework is do not pitch your solution. because the customer's need is either unrecognized or undeveloped. The second step of this framework is do not pitch the solution. And this is the mistake most people, most sales guys do. They pitch the solution. Third step of the solution is ask questions. And here I mean ask right, insightful questions without pitching the solution. Fourth step of this framework is share information, give information as industry best practices. But again, I'll repeat, without pitching the solution. The fourth step of this framework is share information without pitching the solution. And fifth step of this framework is keep a rough ROI or a value proposition ready. So I'll repeat, first understand what is the customer's current decision making stage or a need development stage. Second is do not pitch the solution if the customer is at implicit need stage, because the customer is still at unrecognized, undeveloped need. Third is ask right questions without pitching the solution. Fourth is share information without pitching the solution. And fifth, keep a rough ROI, return on investment calculation, or a value proposition ready.
Very interesting, Vishal. And I think, when we talk next, let's try to pick up each of these points
Sure.
and go a little deeper into this framework, what you define very beautifully, the five things which we need to do. And the stress on not pitching the solution, what does it really mean, right? Because it's an imperative behavior of every sales professional that the solution comes out very quickly in the conversation.
Absolutely.
So probably let's have a follow-up conversation on this and let's take each point one by one from there on.
Makes sense, Pawan. Yes,
Sure.
absolutely
Yeah.
aligned.
Yeah. Thanks, Vishal. Thanks for this.
Thank you. Hey, Murtuza.
Yeah.
Murtuza, this is good?
Yeah, this is good. तो स्टार्टिंग में ब्रीफ वापस करना है क्या? आई थिंक विशाल डिड दैट सस्पेक्ट टू अपॉर्चुनिटी वाला
नहीं,
रॉन्ग.
बट चलेगा ना?
कुछ
वो
फर्क नहीं
देख
पड़ता तो
लेंगे।
ठीक है, मतलब
वो तो क्लैरिफाई हुआ ना रे।
शायद वही है, स्टार्टिंग में तो रॉक किया ना, क्योंकि वो अह,
देख ले Murtuza, I think it's up to you. However you feel right.
so first, your first question was what, Pawan? It gave what does this category 4 means, right?
So category 4, how do you handle a customer, right? That is what the question looks like. So
Ah,
that it's
okay.
an extension of that category 4.
Hmm.
Customer's pain है पर requirement नहीं है. What does it even mean technically for a sales guy,
Okay, okay.
right? Because half of them don't understand what does it even mean कि customer के पास pain है
But
पर requirement नहीं.
hmm. What I thought ना, see, Pawan clarified, and the good Pawan had clarified suspect to opportunity. तो तू जब वो मार्केटिंग वाला वो लिखेगा ना, तेरे को उसमें लिखना है सस्पेक्ट टू अपॉर्चुनिटी स्टेज। तेरा वो जो नीचे कंटेंट आएगा ना,
यार वही, अब इसमें प्रॉब्लम क्या है ना, वेबिनार नहीं है ये, कॉन्वर्जेशन नहीं कर रहे हैं हम लोग, क्लिप्स बना रहे हैं ना, तो इसमें अच्छा नहीं लगेगा एक्चुअली। मतलब आप
नहीं
पूरा
नहीं,
समझा रहे हो,
पब्लिक
देन पीपल,
एक्सप्लेन।
देन पवन इज क्लैरिफाइंग, तो मुझे
तेरे
लगता
को
है नहीं
क्या लगा
अच्छा
पवन?
लगेगा।
मुझे लगा इट्स ओके।
समझे
चल
भाई,
अभी
थोड़ा
अच्छा
बहुत
लगेगा ही आपको,
हाँ,
क्योंकि अभी अपन नॉर्मल बात कर रहे हैं ना, अब जब एंड करूंगा ना तब नहीं अच्छा लगेगा, चले जैसे
नहीं,
वो
मैं सी बिकॉज आई एक्चुअली वॉच लॉट ऑफ पॉडकास्ट, ओके, टू बी ऑनेस्ट, और मुझे ऐसा लगता है यार थोड़ा बहुत नेचुरल होना चाहिए।
तो जो बराबर है, पॉडकास्ट में सही
और
है।
ना मुझे ना वो वाले जो लोग ना जरा भी अच्छे नहीं लगते, जो उनको समझ में आता है, मतलब राइट। सी फॉर एग्जाम्पल अदिति का देखेगा ना, अदिति बिकॉज शी इज सो कंसिस्टेंट ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, आई स्टार्टेड लाइकिंग हर डिसिप्लिन। पर मुझे पहले उसके वीडियोस अच्छे नहीं लगते थे।
हम्म।
मुझे ऐसा लगता है बहुत ज्यादा, हो सकता है मार्केटिंग पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से तुम्हें अच्छे लगते होंगे, मुझे तो जरा भी अच्छे नहीं लगते थे, क्योंकि वो दिखता है स्क्रिप्टेड है।
तो क्या फर्क पड़ता, सामने
अरे
वाले को
फर्क
से
पड़ता
सुनने से
है,
विशाल, अभी पिक्चर
डिसीजन
भी तो
मेकर को
स्क्रिप्टेड
फर्क
होता है
पड़ता
विशाल,
है
पिक्चर आप
चैप।
फिर क्यों देखते हो?
अरे
वो भी तो
डिसीजन,
डायलॉग्स होते हैं,
पिक्चर नहीं है ना ये।
क्योंकि फिर वो
बट वो
पॉडकास्ट में
क्लैरिफाई हुआ ना।
अच्छा बराबर है, पर वही है, वो स्टार्टिंग से अगर कोई सुनेगा और फिर बीच में आप
बट
बोलोगे कि हाँ,
क्लैरिफाई इमीडिएटली तो क्लैरिफाई किया।
अरे निशा बहुत लेट हुआ, मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ, 2 मिनट बाद तो क्लैरिफाई हुआ, वो पूरा आपने समझाया फिर।
चलो वापस करते, तो फिर
वो
वो
एक
क्या
एक
पूरा
सेक्शन
वापस
खाली,
करना पड़ेगा?
नहीं 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 नहीं, वो वाला तो एकदम बराबर से वो बीच में कट हो जाएगा, जहाँ पे आप पवन आपको पूछ रहा है कि व्हाट कैन यू एक्सप्लेन द प्रोसेस या स्टेजेस, जो भी वो वाला आप छोड़ दो, वो बराबर है। उसके पहले वाला जहाँ पे आपने से
चलो ठीक है,
समझाया ना
वापस
कि व्हाट
करते
इज
हैं।
हाँ वो वाला एक करना पड़ेगा कि व्हाट डज दैट मीन स्टेज 4, खाली उतना वाला।
ओके,
अब स्टेप्स नहीं समझाने, वो सब बराबर है।
चलो ठीक है, करते
हाँ
हैं
तो
अपने।
what I would suggest is उतने से स्नाइप कर दे पूरा, remove that piece ideally.
पक्का।
Yeah, that's okay. I think he is already quite, Vishal clarified twice, correct? He has
हम्म।
used the word suspect to opportunity earlier also.
हाँ।
And then he
नहीं
used
नहीं, सस्पेक्ट
suspect
तो
to,
ऑर्डर ना।
नहीं, suspect to
अब-
opportunity पहले बोला है, फिर suspect to
हम्म।
order बाद में बोला है,
अच्छा।
right?
अ,
So else you can just
हम्म।
cut that much of volume piece and paste it here.
तो मैं कैसे बोलता, जिसको नहीं समझ में आ रहा है इतना, वो गधा है रे। मतलब वो हमारा प्रोस्पेक्ट लिस्ट में भी नहीं है, वो गधे लोग हैं।
अरे
और वो
सर
एकदम
क्या।
जूनियर लोग हैं, जूनियर से थोड़ी बात कर रहे हैं।
अरे
मैं
पर
ये बोल रहा हूँ, अब
बराबर है
मतलब मैं
इधर।
सेल्स का पब्लिक से बात कर रहा हूँ ना, ये वो वाले लोग हैं
हाँ।
जिनको इंटरेस्ट है डेप्थ में जाने का। अब वो सालों को इतना भी नहीं समझ में आ रहा है, तो वो तेरे आईसीपी के बाहर है। हमें लोग नहीं इकट्ठा करना है मुर्तुजा,
अब करने हैं विशाल, स्टार्टिंग में
नहीं
लोग
करने
इकट्ठा।
हैं।
नहीं सर,
गधों को
वही
नहीं
इससे
इकट्ठा करना है, पांच।
परसेप्शन बनता है
अबे
कि
10,000 गधों से अच्छा है 5 घोड़ों को इकट्ठा करो।
अरे विशाल, ये पुष्पा 2 जैसा है विशाल, सब जाके देख रहे पर सब गालियां दे रहे, क्या बकवास मूवी बना है।
पता नहीं, या
पर
मैंने तो पुष्पा
भाई
1
उसने
भी नहीं देखी।
हाँ वही है, बराबर है। पर हल्ला है हो ना मूवी का वैसा।
चल ठीक है, जो करना है मेरे हिसाब से आप बताओ। आई गो विथ
चल एक
व्हाट यू
एक
गाइस
एक
से।
खाली 1 मिनट का कर लेते हैं जहाँ पे आप खाली समझाओ कि व्हाट इज द स्टेज 4 मीन करके,
बिकॉज
क्योंकि
मुझे
वो
ऐसा
मेरे को
लगता है मैंने
स्टार्टिंग में।
स्टार्टिंग में बोला था, मुझे ऐसा लगा जो पवन अभी बोल रहा है कि मैंने बोला था सस्पेक्ट
He
ऑफ।
told twice. He told twice.
हाँ,
ठीक, तो फिर वो बहुत सारा मतलब वही है विशाल, फ्लो खराब नहीं होना चाहिए, मतलब वो रिस्क है, एक बार कर लेने में प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, बट वो फिर
So,
एंड में नहीं डालने से
चल कर
अच्छा ये
लेते हैं
okay.
बाबा।
Murtaza, I'll ask a simple
प्रसाद इज
question.
नॉट हैप्पी।
Can you snip a specific word volume piece and put it overlay it? Is it possible in the tool?
नहीं नहीं, इसमें मतलब वो तो 2000 मतलब एआई वाला आप बोल रहे हो कि वो आवाज से वो वर्ड चेंज कर दूं ना, मतलब आवाज से वो वर्ड बोलने का वो चेंज हो जाए,
No, no, no. I'm
लाइक
saying
दैट।
let me just cut that much suspect to opportunity and paste it all over here again, types if it is possible.
नहीं नहीं, दैट विल नॉट गुड लुक गुड पवन, तो वो
ठीक है, done.
उससे अच्छा 1-2 मिनट लगेगा, हम लोग फटाफट कर
हाँ हाँ
लेंगे वो
ठीक
एक
है डन.
खाली
तो
सेक्शन।
what do you want to cover right now?
मतलब द स्टार्टिंग ओनली के व्हाट द कैटेगरी, आपने जो फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन था ना आपका बिफोर
हम्म
द प्रोसेस वाला
हम्म
क्वेश्चन कि व्हाट
हम्म
हाउ डज कस्टमर urgency का प्रोसेस
हम्म
वर्क, उसके
हम्म,
पहले वाला जो क्वेश्चन था ना जहाँ से स्टार्ट किया वो वाला,
ठीक है डन.
कि हाँ कि आपने वो पूछा ना कि लॉट ऑफ पीपल आस्क के व्हाट इज टाइप 4 एक्चुअली,
या
कैटेगरी 4,
ठीक है
वो
डन.
वाला।
डन. ठीक
पर
है.
तू साला बीच में ही रोक दिया कर मुर्तुजा फिर, जैसा
नहीं चल
गलती लगे ना
बीच
तभी
में
रोक
फिर,
दे।
तो फिर वही होगा, वापस से करना ही पड़ेगा।
अरे हाँ बाबा, एनीवे वापस करना तो तभी
हाँ,
रोकना।
ठीक है, जब मैं रोक दूंगा, फिर वो पूरा फ्लो
हाँ,
तेरा खराब ना हो जाए, इसके लिए
अरे
मैं
तो
रोका
एनीवे साला वापस कर रहे हैं।
नहीं। हाँ ठीक है, चलो रोक दूंगा इस बार में।
हाँ, ठीक है। तो जब
ओके
हो जाए
डन.
तब फिनिश करना।
हम्म.
मुर्तुजा बोल देना कि
हाँ
हो
हाँ,
गया।
ठीक है ठीक है।
या,
हाय विशाल.
हे पवन, हाय, हाउ आर
Hey,
यू?
hi, I'm good, Vishal.
ग्रेट,
Thank you so much for asking. How are you doing?
वेरी गुड यार,
Okay,
एब्सोल्यूट फाइन।
fantastic. Vishal, thanks so much for giving time last time. And we had a very interesting conversation about the categories of the customer. And then we ended at a very high note on a category 4. Now,
हम्म,
that was like a customer has a pain, but not a requirement.
या,
Now, when I was having a conversation with a team and a lot of other sales professionals, they were all confused about it. What does this even mean technically?
हम्म,
Right? And at what stage would a customer be in when this typically happens? And in terms of sales process, right? In a suspect order, where will the customer be when this
हम्म,
kind of a behavior happens? And the last thing they had was that, is it about urgency or is it about something else? What exactly are we talking about here?
हम्म।
So if you could take a moment and kind of put all these three things a little more clearly, that what is happening here and how do sales professionals react to it and how do they understand and what happens?
So great. Thank you so much, Pawan, and thanks for taking that and obviously sharing with the team also. Okay, so first thing, now we are going deeper into the science of sales. And let me not try to, okay, though we are trying to simplify B2B complex selling, but I know also that there are certain aspects which is like I always give this cricket example. There are some elements which is like a batting on a batting pitch and something which is like a batting on a bowling pitch. So category one, two customers Paul, if you could recall, that time also I'd mentioned, it's like a batting on a batting pitch. And category three and four, it's like a sales guy who's batting on a bowling pitch. So now category four, okay, just for your benefit of your audience, this is that category of customer who has a pain, problem, concern, issues, hassle, perhaps interest also. Now, as a seller, you might have a solution, but the customer does not have a requirement. So that means the customer as a prospect has a pain, problem, or an interest. Seller might have a solution, but the customer does not have a requirement, right? So now to answer your question, so has client realized the requirement? No. Has client recognized the requirement or client's need has developed to an actual requirement stage? Answer is no. So to answer your question, here we are talking from sales point of view, suspect to opportunity stage. So sales guys first need to either the customer will have to reach to a requirement stage or sales guy will have to create a customer urgency to take this customer to an opportunity stage. So this will remain this conversation or this entire approach of creating customer urgency. I would say for category four customer, which is a pain problem but not a requirement, will be between suspect to opportunity stage.
That clarifies, Vishal. Thank you so much for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Murtaza, this is good?
Yeah, this is good.
Okay,
Yeah.
ठीक है, done. So now
So
we'll
now,
Great.
go into each
we'll
of
go
the
into the
points,
ठीक
each of the
है, yeah.
points, right? That's where we will.
Yeah.
Again,
So
very
we'll try to have a quick, we'll not go much deeper also, Pawan.
yeah, up to you, Vishal. I'll keep asking you of, point guideline number one,
Sure.
right? Then I'll ask you guideline number two. Similarly, my question is going to be
Agree.
one liner, not a long question at all.
Agree.
ठीक है, fantastic. Sure. Hi, Vishal.
Hey, Pawan. Hi.
Hey, Vishal, continuing our conversation on the creating customer urgency, which we spoke last.
Mhm.
You give a very beautiful framework of five, or rather the guideline of five pointers, right?
Yep.
But then, it would be very helpful if we can probably take one point at a time and go a little more clarify on this. Like you spoke about the first point
Sure.
about understanding the decision making stage or the need stage of the customer, right?
Yep.
Now, what does that really mean? So if you could just take few minutes to explain just guideline number one or the framework point number one, that would really help. So can we really look at that?
Sure, Pawan. So we'll remain focused on creating customer urgency as a
Right.
framework, and I'm just remaining focused on the point number one. So step number one is as a sales guy, I need to understand what is my prospects or what is my customer's current need development stage. That means whether my this prospect or a customer, whether he is at a implicit need stage or explicit need stage. So what I mean by implicit, implicit means the client has a pain, problem, concern, issue, but it has still not reached to an requirement stage or an explicit need stage. So I'll give few examples for example, the customer might say, "Okay, I've got problem with my invoicing system, or I've got a problem with my current IT system, or I've got a problem with my laptop." Here, the customer actually mentioned that he is not happy with his current state, but the customer has not stated that he is looking for a change, right? So this is what I would say. These customers are called as a customer with implicit need. So there is definite pain, problem, concern, issue, hassle, whatever you can call, but it has still not reached to a stage where they say enough is enough, and I think I need to find a solution to replace this. So the first one customer mentioned, "Okay, I've got a problem with my invoicing," but a customer didn't say that I'm looking for a change of, I'm a new software partner. Yeah, so this is what I would say. The sales guy should know, okay, where my customer is. Yeah. Have I made myself clear, Pawan?
Yeah, Vishal, just to extrapolate, is it okay if you make that same example of invoicing into an explicit need? How would it sound like?
Then the
Sound so
customer
bad?
would say, "Okay, I'm looking for a change of, I'm looking for a new invoicing partner, or I'm looking for a new invoicing platform." Okay. Or, I'm currently, yeah, I'm not happy with my incumbent and we are looking for a new partner.
Fantastic. So there's a clear line of difference between a dissatisfaction versus a requirement, what we're talking about, implicit to explicit.
Yes, where over a period of time, the dissatisfaction reached to that level
Hmm.
where the customer eventually thinks enough is enough. Yeah, I need to now find a solution. Yeah. For example, right, if I give a very basic example or a crude example, right? Uh, at times, yeah, I mean, let's say if somebody's weight is increasing, they know, okay, my weight is increasing. Yeah, but it's okay. I know I'm still okay. Over a period of time, the person realizes, yeah, enough is enough. I need to do something about it. And that person genuinely starts thinking about hitting the gym or doing some other activity. Same thing, Pawan. Think of a scenario when you last changed your vehicle or when you last changed, let's say, your residence, or even when you last changed your job also. When all of us, when we joined our, let's say, the past company, we all joined at a very happy note, right? We all thought that this is my dream company. And over a period of time, the same candidate, over a period of time, they reach to that stage where they feel, nahi yaar, I think many of them thought that this is not a ideal company and I think I need to start looking out. Yeah. Obviously, in few cases, they get much better offer, those kind of scenario, but a lot of people, their dissatisfaction stage reach to a stage where they say, that's it. I think I want to now start looking out.
Fair point, Vishal. I think this greatly explained. That helps.
Yeah.
Thanks
Great.
so much. I think in the next conversation, let's pick up the second one, which I've spoken about, which I'm very curious about.
Sure,
Let's
sure.
do that maybe
Absolutely,
some other
Pawan.
day. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vishal.
Yeah.
Murtaza,
मुर्तजा,
this
या
okay?
हाँ
डायरेक्टर
हाँ,
साहब,
यस यस
आपके
बराबर है।
कट की राह देख रहे हैं हम लोग।
विशाल, इसमें मतलब आई एक्चुअली मुझे लगा कि इसमें एग्जांपल्स के पहले वाला थोड़ा पार्ट आई कट, मतलब दैट आई सी
हाँ,
फ्रॉम माय एंड। हाँ, मतलब आई थॉट दैट एग्जांपल वाला इट वाज गुड, पवन ट्राई टू फोर्स ऑन के एग्जांपल्स दो
हम्म,
करके। तो आई थिंक दिस
ठीक है।
विल हेल्प। हाँ, तो ऐसा ही
हाँ, हाँ, नहीं,
करेगा, मतलब विल
एग्जाम्पल्स
ट्राई
ऑलवेज
टू। हाँ,
हेल्प।
इट हेल्प्स यार।
बट
Yeah,
मेरा
because
क्या प्रॉब्लम, सी पवन नोज मी, आई नॉर्मली टॉक इन विथ एग्जाम्पल्स, फॉर एग्जाम्पल इन सेशंस, बट यहाँ पे मेरे दिमाग में ये चलता रहता है कि एग्जाम्पल दूंगा तो लंबा ना चला जाए।
नहीं विशाल, implicit explicit नहीं तो समझ में नहीं आएगा लोगों को.
हाँ,
That's
नहीं
why
तो
I
समझ
pushed
में
you
नहीं
on
आएगा,
that.
यू
हम्म।
आर राइट, नो नो, विच इज
Right?
गुड।
Because when you said कि invoice में problem है, लोगों को लगता है requirement तो बोल रहा है साफ साफ कि problem है तो
हाँ,
मैं
हाँ,
pitch करूंगा. So they don't
या
understand the difference between implicit and explicit in that example.
मेक सेंस, मेक सेंस।
Right?
एंड मुझे तेरे को
So
लग रहा है ना, तो वी हैव क्रिएटेड दो स्लाइड्स वेयर वी हैव एक्चुअली रिटन इम्प्लिसिट के स्टेटमेंट्स ये होंगे, एक्सप्लिसिट का सेम चीज का स्टेटमेंट ये होगा।
ओके।
तो तुझे बताना है तो तू ऐसे भी बता सकता है।
हाँ, वो तो ब्लॉक के तरीके से बता सकते हैं, हम लोग हमेशा बनाते
हाँ,
हैं वो टेबल्स।
it's for example, if we say, yeah, I'm not happy with my current HubSpot,
हम्म।
that's an implicit need. But if
हाँ
I
विशाल
say
वो
that tomorrow, yeah, I want
हाँ,
a new sales CRM.
यस यस यस, डू आर टोल्ड विशाल वो मेल
Yeah,
टूल का एग्जांपल देके, स्नो आयो का।
exactly. हाँ,
ठीक है,
tell
तो
me honestly,
सेकंड। हाँ।
I think I'll leave you with the question, Vishal. You can answer me later after we're done with
sure,
this.
sure.
ये वाला जो हम पूरा बात कर रहे हैं सीसीयू का, in a
Hmm.
customer scenario, this will typically be handled by ISRs.
Not necessarily.
Why?
Okay, see, all of us, see, and you will realize the more greatness you achieve as a
Hmm.
professional,
Hmm.
you will realize the customers will start reaching out to you, even when the client is an implicit need stage, or you will have a more and more conversation. Okay, because they start respecting you, so you will
विशाल,
otherwise also
अभी
have access
अभी
to.
हम आइडियल सिनेरियो की बात कर रहे हैं. लेट्स टेक अ ग्राउंड सिनेरियो.
हाँ,
We're in a MNC scenario where the sales process is
हाँ,
really broken up.
तेरा
Correct?
आवाज कट रहा है। हाँ,
Able to hear me now?
हाँ,
Murtaza,
बोल बोल
able
बोल,
to hear
मैं
me?
समझा, आईएसआर को आएगा।
Correct? Can we even train them to handle this?
नहीं, डिफिकल्ट है पाऊँ।
So how do we, okay, I'll tell you what struck me just now while we were talking this. This is exactly
नहीं,
what
आईएसआर
Enzigma is trying
को,
to sell. Okay, I'll
हाँ,
give you a
और
real
मैं
life case
मैं
study.
ये बोल रहा हूँ। हाँ,
Enzigma का जो product अभी वो बेचना चाह रहा है, which is called no coder, all the customers which he's going to reach out will be sitting in implicit.
अग्री।
अब हाउ डज ही हैंडल कि अगर वो बंदे को सबको उसको एक्सप्लिसिट पे लाना है, so how does he handle a sales process? It's going to be a very difficult sales process for him.
But it is difficult, na? We are saying that it's a batting on a bowling
So then
pitch.
ISR is not a person for him, no?
Okay, see, ISR के लिए difficult है पवन. Okay, for example, ISR का काम है मीटिंग फिक्स करके दे दो.
पर कस्टमर मीटिंग पे आएगा नहीं ना विशाल, अगर इम्प्लिसिट
हाँ,
पे तो।
तो या तो तुम क्लाइंट को बोलो कि हाँ, थोड़ा बहुत तुम्हें वो, ऑब्वियसली उनका एलिवेटर पिच में इतना दम होना चाहिए कि सर माई whoever is let's say either able to talk about some of the best practice anything. अगर वो भी नहीं ISR कर पा रहे तो ये सीसीयू तो कर ही नहीं पाएंगे. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर एलिवेटर पिच नहीं बोल पा रहे ढंग का, ओके, कि बेसिक अगर अपॉइंटमेंट नहीं फिक्स कर पा रहे, वो सीसीयू के लिए तुम्हें कॉन्वर्सेशन होल्ड करना पड़ता है ना? तुम्हें एटलीस्ट मिनिमम 20 मिनट होल्ड करना पड़ता है.
नहीं, I get it. My question was coming from a perspective when you need a very different sales structure to handle that kind of a product selling.
नहीं,
Then my standard structure will not work. Then I need to give a very strong elevator pitch to an ISR, and then I need someone technical who can hold a 20-minute conversation and who is trained on CC.
विच इज
That's where the
करेक्ट
sale will
पवन.
happen.
तो जैसे अपना सेल्स इनेबलमेंट को देख ले आज
Hmm.
की डेट में, ओके,
Hmm.
एंड मुर्तुजा विल एग्री. बहुत बार क्लाइंट सिर्फ ऐसे ही आता है कि आप क्या कर रहे हो देखने के
Hmm.
लिए,
Hmm.
एंड देन वन ऑफ अस विल हैव टू जंप एंड देन क्रिएट कस्टमर अर्जेंसी, बिकॉज क्लाइंट का कोई ऐसा रिक्वायरमेंट स्टेज नहीं होता है, और जो होता है उनके लिए हम बहुत एक्सपेंसिव है.
I think I'll have a longer conversation on this with you because this is
हाँ, बट
I
आईएसआर के लिए, और मैं उस दिन तेरे को वही बोल रहा था, सीसीयू सभी को हिट करेगा. बट चक्कर क्या होता है, जो एवरेज सेल्स के लोगों को दिखता ही नहीं है.
get it, but this would also reflect upon the sales structure part of it because in Sigma mein, this is where it is going to hit.
ओके, सी
I had a
उसके
lot
लिए
of conversation with them on this entire thing, right?
विल हैव अ सेपरेट डिस्कशन.
हाँ, so
जैसे
I'll
आई,
bounce it off with you.
और मुझे हमेशा लगता है जो आपके फाउंडर्स होते हैं,
Hmm.
आपके जो मेन मैनेजमेंट होते हैं, सीनियर पब्लिक, उनका रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होता है टू सेल द फर्स्ट फ्यू प्रोजेक्ट्स.
I have driven that into them,
हाँ,
right? But okay, I think I'll explain it to you where am I
ठीक
coming
है, ठीक
from.
है,
उनका जो
चलेगा,
sales structure है मेरे को वो थोड़ा सा tweak करना पड़ेगा after this conversation largely,
श्योर.
क्योंकि straight
ओके,
forward नहीं होगा ये.
नहीं नहीं, स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड है भी नहीं कौन.
Yeah, so Himanshu can handle that conversation what you're saying,
हाँ,
right? हिमांशु को छोड़ के उसकी जो बची हुई टीम है, I don't think so they can handle this conversation
हाँ, एंड अगेन आई एम सेइंग
because
सीसीयू
when
इज
you
नॉट
talk to
फॉर एवरीबॉडी.
Himanshu, Himanshu runs far ahead in the conversation in his head, and that's what you need in CC.
सीसीयू के लिए आपको बेसिक हाइजीन, सी आपका प्रोडक्ट नॉलेज अच्छा होना चाहिए, आपका
Exactly,
इंडस्ट्री नॉलेज अच्छा होना चाहिए, तब
correct.
जाके आप बात कर सकते हो.
And you should be able to ask those questions to highlight the issue and implication, otherwise it is going to fall flat.
हाँ हाँ,
Correct?
आई
Which
एग्री,
I think Himanshu can think faster on that, so he is able to address that.
अग्री.
So fair enough. I think what I told them yesterday was somewhere cut across this, but it did not come across very well. I'll have to redo that conversation with them.
हाँ, एंड मैं बोल रहा हूँ, सी एवरीथिंग इन लाइफ इज नॉट टीचेबल, है ना?
हाँ, I get it. तो
मतलब मैं आईआईटी के सम सब बच्चों को नहीं एक्सप्लेन कर सकता, उनका लेवल ही नहीं होता.
correct.
तो सीसीयू इज लाइक आईआईटी ऑफ सेल्स. या,
ठीक है, done. So
ओके,
let's quickly get down to number 2 now, right?
या मुर्तजा, डायरेक्टर साहब,
डायरेक्टर साहब बोले फालतू बकवास करना,
राइटर साहब बायो बायो ब्रेक में चले
ब्रेकफास्ट
गए.
ब्रेकफास्ट करने चले गए वो.
हाँ, सही में नहीं है देख.
हाँ, सही में नहीं.
नहीं
मुर्तजा,
अरे विशाल, मेरा माउस का क्लिक खराब हो गया. मैं 3 बार मैंने
अच्छा,
ऑडियो का बटन दबाया, अनम्यूट ही नहीं हुआ.
चलो ये
हमको
अच्छा
लगा
चलो.
नहीं, ये मैं
डायरेक्टर
बोल रहा
साहब
था
चले गए.
वो खत्म करने के बाद वो वैनिटी बैठता है ना बात करने, वो वाला था 3 मिनट के बाद.
ठीक है,
नहीं तो
चलो, आई थिंक लेट्स मूव टू
ठीक
द
है,
सेकंड
done.
पॉइंट.
Let's quickly get down. Hi Vishal.
हे पवन, हाय.
Hey Vishal, continuing a conversation on creating customer urgency wala part. I
या,
think we covered the guideline number 1, which is about to understand what is the need stage or the decision making stage of the customer. And then in the second one, which we spoke about in previous video, was very interesting, that do not pitch the solution.
Yeah,
right?
that's a second step.
Yeah, that's the second step. And I would really want you to explain this furthermore, that what does that really mean? Because every sales professional is pretty wired
Hmm.
to go and start talking about a solution the moment customer even hints that there is some issue, right? And it goes full hog. So what does this even mean that do not pitch a solution? Can you take some time to explain the second step of this creating customer urgency?
So I'll tell you one. Okay, so I generally think, counterintuitive way of selling, right? And also keep thinking like a customer. So assuming you are a customer and I'm a LIC or a Mediclaim agent, and if I directly start coming and start pitching you कि Mediclaim के फायदे ये है, ये है, ये है, ये है, ये है, how you'll feel?
I would hardly pay any attention until unless I'm really at a stage where I want to buy tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm not
So
listening.
that means we saw in the first step, right? Okay, the customer is at customer. If the customer is at implicit need state, that means client has a pain but not necessarily a requirement. So assume करो कि हाँ, you understand कि मतलब mediclaim ideally हो तो अच्छा है, but it has not reached to that level where you completely accept. And if agent starts pitching you the solution to your underdeveloped need, eventually you'll feel, मतलब you'll start objecting. And after that one meeting, if the same guy starts following up for another meeting, or what will happen, right? You may not be very keen to meet the same agent again, because you know कि ये वापस push करेगा. So similar kind of scenario. Now keep thinking like a customer. See, I've seen the problem with most sales guys. कि we keep thinking like a sellers. हमको ये दिमाग में चलते रहते हैं, नहीं यार मेरे पास टारगेट है, मुझे बेचना है, बेचना है, बेचना है. But here the client is still at implicit need stage, and the biggest and the most important is first understand okay, what is the customer's current need development stage. If the client is not reached to explicit need, if the customer is still at implicit need, the second most important thing, and I would say the most important thing of this entire framework, do not pitch the solution. Hold on, because the client's need has not reached to a recognized state or it has not become fully developed. So hold your urge to pitch the solution. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying we realize that customers, so we should what happens next when we don't pitch the solution? How would a conversation look like? It's like that golden silence, or what would it happen in this
Yeah.
stage if you have to practically look at it?
So second point, we'll move to the third point, okay, as part of
Mhm.
this. But the reason I'm saying we should not pitch the as soon as you pitch the solution, actually customer will start objecting. Customer के
Okay,
दिमाग shut होना start होगा. Okay,
okay,
because it had still not reached to a fully developed or fully recognized need. Yeah.
fantastic. Okay, so customer had a pain but no requirement. So if we pitch, then customer will start shutting us down, which means we lose our credibility and we also stop having further interaction with the customer, is what we are saying. That's the
Yes.
outfall of it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Usually it happens. And again, think like a customer, right? When somebody
Hmm.
reaches out, how you normally react.
No, what you said about life insurance or a health insurance is perfectly fair, right?
Yeah,
Because you get so many calls in a day, you don't respond to any of them because you're not thinking about it. But as you approach your renewal date, you start responding to them differently because my need stage has changed all of a sudden,
absolutely. Very
right?
good point.
If my
Yes,
renewal is about 1 month away, then I start listening to them more carefully.
absolutely.
So that's the difference what you're talking about, and that's the
Yes,
sales professional. We need to realize that.
agree.
Fantastic, Shal. There's an interesting one. So in the next one, let's look at what happens next. I think that's also going to be very important. That how
Sure.
do we handle this situation, right? Thanks so much, Vishal, for this one.
My pleasure, Paul.
Yeah. हेलो आवाज आ रहा
हाँ
है?
हाँ
ओके ओके या
हाँ, मतलब
हाँ ओके तो आई आई थिंक इसमें मतलब दिस इज मोर लाइक मुझे लगा ये पॉइंट इज मोर लाइक इन्फॉर्मेशन क्योंकि ये नहीं करना है बट आई थिंक वी हैव टू फोकस मोर ऑन कि अभी ये नहीं करना तो क्या करना है लाइक दैट
हाँ हाँ.
आई थिंक वी हैव टू
देखिए,
रिफ्लेक्ट बैक ऑन के द सेकंड द पॉइंट आई मीन द पॉइंट ऑफ दिस इज दैट इन कस्टमर मतलब व्हेन कस्टमर डजंट हैव अ पेन तो ये हम लोग को भी डोंट हैव टू पिच सो नाउ थर्ड पॉइंट में वो हम लोग को थोड़ा पीछे बोलना पड़ेगा कि वी टेल पीपल आई मीन द बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस इज टू नॉट टू पिच बट व्हाट टू डू तो आप उसमें शायद बोलोगे कि हाउ टू शेयर मोर इंडस्ट्री बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस और इन्फॉर्मेशन आई थिंक दैट इज द थर्ड पॉइंट राइट वन यू आर ऑन म्यूट
Asking right question is the
हाँ,
third point.
asking right
So
question. Okay,
so
okay.
I'll go and get down to that.
हाँ, तो you will emphasize on the second point, right? That okay, this is
Yes.
more like a best practice, but now what to do?
I'll I'll summarize both of them, that
Okay,
we did this, now we're talking about this. So help us what happens next.
correct, correct. ठीक है, हाँ,
Right?
this is
हाँ, हाँ,
was my input. Yeah, we can
हाँ,
start.
ठीक है. Hey, hi Vishal.
Hey, Pawan. Hi.
We have been having an interesting conversation about creating customer urgency for last two times, right?
Yep.
And discussed very interestingly about understanding a customer's need stage and the decision stage as guideline number one.
Hmm.
And then the second one, which is really difficult to do, when I ran past with a lot of people, that if a sales guy doesn't pitch a solution, what does he do in a meeting?
Hmm.
Holding me from being myself. Now that brings me to the important question of third, that if a sales guy doesn't pitch, what am I supposed to do in a meeting as a sales professional when I realize customer has a pain but no requirement, and I
Agreed.
am restricted from pitching a solution? So what should my natural behavior in a meeting be?
Yep.
Right. So could you take us a little further into this journey as to what should the next ideal stage would be in this kind of a conversation?
Yep. So I'll do, okay. So real life scenario, though here we are talking in terms of frameworks and everything, but real life customer situation, customer meeting could be really very dynamic, correct? So the way the great sales guy does, first he clearly understands whether this prospect is falling in my ideal customer profile or not. Once that part is sorted, then the second he realizes, okay, fine, this customer is in my category four. That means this customer is a pain problem, but not a requirement. And actually, I have a solution, but the customer unfortunately does not have a requirement. So this is how the great sales guy first thinks. And now the great sales guy starts thinking, okay, now I will have to create customer urgency to take this customer from implicit need to explicit need. Yeah, in a very customer centric manner, so that the customer should not feel that I have taken him to that journey. Rather, he himself should realize a bigger picture, right? So now the third step now, and the third and the fourth will keep happening simultaneously in the real life customer situation, right? So third scenario is ask right insightful questions. Now, what is the objective? Okay, so here, see, few things are hygiene bound. Okay, as I mentioned, it's like a batting on a bouncy Australian, bowling pitches. आपका टेक्निक होना चाहिए. अगर आपका टेक्निक ही नहीं है तो आप वो ऑस्ट्रेलिया में सर्वाइव नहीं करोगे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल व्हाट आई मीन बाय टेक्निक, राइट? आपका बेसिक, आपका प्रोडक्ट का अंडरस्टैंडिंग, राइट? आपका इंडस्ट्री का अंडरस्टैंडिंग, आपका लेट्स से बेसिक व्हाट दिस इवेंचुअली प्रोडक्ट डज फॉर योर कस्टमर्स बिजनेस, ये सब क्लियर होना चाहिए. Okay. And I don't want to simplify CCU. If you are like an average sales guys, you will find it difficult to understand. Even if they understand CCU, it will be difficult to practice, right? But we have seen the great sales guys who are really good with their overall hygiene, everything. Once they understand the concept, they are able to really do it well, right? So now coming to, okay, here, it's all about asking right questions, right? That means what is the objective of asking right, insightful question? That can you as a seller give that aha moment to your customer? And what I mean by that aha moment, see, I have defined my own. I'm not sure whether I defined or I read it somewhere, Pawan, but the way consultative selling. Now, consultative selling, the way I feel is when a seller asks a question, and the question is such that there is no straightforward answer for the customer. And for that question, customer has to take a pause, think, and then answer. And while answering, customer also benefits. This I call it as a consultative selling, right? Where the seller is asking some of the very insightful questions, which is making customer realize of a situation or of a problem or of a solution which customer had not initially thought of himself. Yeah. So again, I'm saying, as a seller, can you ask a question which makes customer realizes of a problem which customer had not thought himself or herself earlier? Can you help customer? Can you ask a question in such a way that customer realizes the possibility of a solution which he or she had not thought earlier? Right? Can you, in a way, ask question which creates a discovery learning for the customer? कि अरे ओ ऐसा तो मैंने नहीं सोचा था, ओ मैंने ये नहीं सोचा था कि ये प्रॉब्लम इतना बड़ा है. Okay, as a customer, initially the customer may think that problem is small. It's okay, he can live with it. But the seller, the way seller asks question, the customer realizes that this is a much bigger problem than the customer actually initially thought, without manipulating the customer. Yeah,
Nice, Vishal. If we reflect back on some of the examples which we took earlier, right?
yeah.
We spoke about invoicing system, or we spoke about a health insurance guy. Uh, can we take a moment to say what an insightful question here would look like?
Okay, so before we jump to a
Mhm.
insightful question, Pawan, okay,
Okay.
because we are talking about science of B2B complex selling. Let's assume that there is a sales leader. He feels that his sales team is good, but not like a above average. Yeah, and you are a sales CRM sales guy. Okay, or let's assume you are a sales enablement sales guy. Now the sales head says, "Yeah, I know, we are hitting almost 75 to 80% of the quota. Yeah, I know my team is good, not ideal. I know some of the 10% sales guys are pretty good. Yeah. Now imagine a scenario. Now you have to take this customer to a next level because actually he needs help and you have a solution. And your solution can actually create a big impact to the customer's world. The only difference is the customer has still not realized the need. So now your question should be such, okay, where you ask customer, okay, sir, how many people actually hit the quota? Okay, sir, assume करो कि ये सबके सब assuming you are at 70% or a 60% of target versus achievement. If additional 15%, what would that mean? Assuming that 60% can become 75%. So that 15% would mean what? And then the customer starts thinking and customer realizes that additional 15% is actually 200 crore. Okay. And sir, what would that mean to your career? And the customer realizes, yeah, that means I will have a significant commission. I will also have my appraisal taken care. It will also mean my sales team hitting more incentive. That also would mean my sales team attrition coming down significantly because now they are earning more money. And same way, right? If you do not do this, if this continues, then what happens? Then the customer is again starts thinking, if this continues, then that 60% eventually will start coming down to 59, 58, 55%. We will still renew the deals or win the deals, but at a profit pressure, margin pressure. That means cash flow would be under pressure. Yeah. Now, if you see the entire scenario, Pawan, have you spoken anything about your sales CRM? Have you spoken anything about your sales enablement solution?
Not really.
You, as a seller, just asked customer some of the deeper questions, which perhaps made him realize if I do not solve this problem, this would be the implications. But if I solve this problem, this could be the potential benefit. And it's like a pendulum, right? The problem was here. If I do not solve the problem, then this could be the implication. But if I solve the problem, this could be the benefit. And suddenly now that urgency to solve that problem increases in the customer's mind. I'm not saying that it will happen in the same meeting, but if normal scenario, if the journey from implicit need to explicit need was taking, let's say, X number of days, my experience is it will take definitely significantly lesser number of days. So I'll just take a pause here for a minute.
No, this is fantastic, Vishal. To the last point, what you said, the longer the distance between the, a realization of a problem versus the benefit, or the wider the gap is, how fast the journey, the need stage would change to a requirement, from a dissatisfaction to a requirement largely, right?
Agree.
Good. So which is a very valid point, and I think some of the key things which you covered is the basic hygiene where you need to have a understanding of a customer business, industry, the knowledge about customers, environment, and all of that. which you will not be able to ask the right questions.
Look at the real life scenario.
Hmm.
Assuming you don't have a good understanding of your product,
Hmm.
assuming you do not have a high credibility with that customer,
Hmm.
and you are now suddenly asking the customer, sir, what would be the implication if this
Hmm.
problem is not addressed?
Hmm.
The client
Hmm.
probably may not open up itself.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, that's why I said that hygiene is important.
Yes, and I think what you also made a very important point at the start of it is that it also needs a lot of practice to ask the right questions, right?
Initially, yes,
So,
I would say,
yeah,
yeah, at least for 5 to 10 times, then it will become the part of the
yes,
DNA.
correct. So I think it's a very interesting approach where you don't pitch a solution, but you ask a lot of questions with a very clear intent of widening the gap between the issue and the benefit,
Hmm,
correct? And that is what we are focused upon in this stage largely.
absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's a great way to create an urgency. Now we exactly know what does it really mean, right? You have to
And
widen the gap.
yes, and if I could recall the great Neil Rackham,
Hmm.
I don't know whether he wrote or somebody
Hmm.
else wrote,
Hmm.
but there is a principles of communication power
Hmm.
where the customer will give more weightage
Hmm.
if they believe that they realize this problem. So the receptivity would be much higher. So, for example, if the customer realizes that this
Hmm.
problem is much
Hmm.
bigger
Hmm.
than what I initially thought,
Hmm.
and then they ask you as a seller, okay, so Pavan, as a seller, do you have any industry best practices? And now you share the industry best practices, then the receptivity to listen to you would be much higher because it was a
Yes.
discovery learning for them.
Yeah, exactly what we said, that we are not giving the solution, but we are making them reach to a point where they ask for a solution from us
Yes,
by realizing that the problem is bigger than what I anticipated.
yes. And the
Correct?
benefit
That's
also could be much bigger than
yes.
he or she would have anticipated.
Correct. So we are saying not pitching the solution also means ensuring that a customer reaches a point of asking a solution rather than we pitching it,
Absolutely. और
right?
पिचिंग से क्या होता है ना पवन अपना वो पूरा पोजिशनिंग चेंज हो जाता है
हाँ,
because it
you
was an
become like a
unrecognized.
pushy seller.
Yeah, you are like a
हाँ,
salesy approach
correct,
कि यार
correct.
ये तो बेचने पे आ गया.
हाँ, तो मतलब जो आपने पहले बोला था स्टेज 2 पे कि कस्टमर विल शट डाउन, करेक्ट?
हाँ,
We will reach there
customer.
again. If you
Yes,
still pitch a solution without that gap getting widened enough, customer फिर से shut down हो जाएगा,
agree.
correct? Fantastic, Vishal. I think this is a great measure of what does a creating customer urgency means, right? The wider the gap, the more faster customer will move to that stage of need, and you will be far more valued in the conversation with the discovery learning stage, what you said.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for this, Vishal. I think this
Hey,
is the
my
most
pleasure.
important stage.
Yeah. Then all stages are important, Pawan. If you realize, for example, if you do not, the stage one, right? If you have
Hmm.
not captured the customer's current need development stage, then nothing works.
No,
Stage two
I get
also
it.
is equal.
Correct.
Is
Yeah, but
stage two, I would say, is the easiest to do and the still
uh,
most difficult because most
correct,
sales guys jump with the solution. As soon as the customer says, मेरा ये नहीं चलता, sir, मेरे पास solution है.
correct.
So
Correct.
that easiest to do, but still the most difficult. Yeah.
True.
And I would say
True.
it's like again same cricketing analogy, Pawan. As a great batsman or as a good batsman, you need to have multiple shots in your arsenal.
Hmm.
तुम हर शॉट पे तो हर बॉल पे तो फ्रंट फुट पे नहीं आते हो ना
Correct.
और हर बॉल पे बैक फुट पे भी नहीं जाते हो. So like this, right? You should know, you should have multiple, different techniques, frameworks, tactics to support you in those customer engagement things.
Nice, Vishal. I think this is great. This really answers. So in the next conversation, let's pick up the fourth point, Vishal. I think
Sure.
about the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Vishal. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Director साहब.
तो आई थिंक ये वाला बहुत लंबा गया है ना.
It was supposed to.
हाँ, आई थिंक ऑलमोस्ट 10 मिनट तो मैंने देखा, 10 से 12 मिनट.
बट ये वरना नहीं समझ में आएगा.
हाँ हाँ, अरे वो समझ में आया सर, प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. पर एक्चुअली वही है सर, पहले दो जो परफेक्टली देखेगा ना, वो बैठ के तीसरा भी ये देखेगा पूरा 10 मिनट का.
हाँ हाँ.
So
देख
I think it's
मैं
pretty
कैसे
good.
सोच रहा हूँ मुर्तुजा. मैं ये देख रहा हूँ कि दो टाइप के क्लाइंट वापस बोल रहा हूँ. एक जिनको घंटा कुछ समझ में आता है.
हम्म.
ओके. जिनको कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है बट दे मोर लाइक चल यार कुछ तो बोल रहे हैं, अच्छा बोल रहे हैं.
हाँ
हाँ, इनको दे देते हैं, लेट देम डू इट, लेट देम मैनेज माय सेल्स ऑर्गेनाइजेशन।
हम्म।
एंड दूसरा, जिनको समझ में आता है।
हम्म।
नाउ जिनको समझ में आता है, विच इज ऑल्सो नॉट गुड, दैट मीन्स हो सकता है कि दे आर माइट प्रॉब्ली कंसल्टेंट्स ऑफ कंपटीशन कंपनी, तो एक्चुअली यू
हम्म।
आर इनेबलिंग देम।
करेक्ट।
ओके, और the real people who go deeper, the sales leaders, and when they realize, then they'll directly reach out.
हम्म।
So it's okay रे मेरे
या
हिसाब से।
नहीं नहीं, बराबर है, ठीक है। आई थिंक दिस होल विल पुट इट ऑन दिस थिंग, मतलब कहीं पे हम लोग यूट्यूब पे पूरा भी डालेंगे, और लिंक्डइन इसको पॉइंट्स में ये करने के लिए करेंगे, टू शेयर इट इन पार्ट्स, क्योंकि ये पूरा
Yeah,
ही एक ये बन सकता है सीसीयू पे, मॉड्यूल जो मतलब
sure.
मॉड्यूल जैसा ही। हाँ, तो वो
Yep.
है, ठीक है। तो आई थिंक नेक्स्ट वन इज इंफॉर्मेशन शेयरिंग, राइट?
Yeah.
ओके,
Yeah.
so you will reflect back again on the
Yeah. All
previous
the
one,
three I will
yeah,
reflect. Yeah.
and examples का you will ask.
एग्जाम्पल आई
Question.
थिंक शेयरिंग इन्फॉर्मेशन पे थोड़ा सा लंबा चला जाएगा वो एग्जाम्पल।
अच्छा, क्या विशाल, क्या
आई
लगता
थिंक
है
दैट
एग्जाम्पल्स यू
कॉन्सेप्ट
कैन?
कॉन्सेप्ट इज वेरी सिंपल ऑफ शेयरिंग इन्फॉर्मेशन अकॉर्डिंग टू।
ट्राई करेंगे, लेट्स सी।
हाँ, ठीक है,
है
ठीक
ना?
है, चलेगा। चलो।
ठीक है। हाय विशाल।
Hey Pawan, hi.
हाय, हाउ आर यू डूइंग?
Very good, Pawan.
Vishal, we were having to a very interesting conversation in our previous three conversations, right? Where we were reflecting upon creating customer urgency for a
Yeah,
category four customer, and that's how the entire build-up was. And we said
yes.
there are three things till now that we have discussed. One was understanding the need stage of the customer, followed by not pitching the solution.
Yep.
And then we said, if I don't pitch, then what do we do? So that was a stage three where we said that, we need to ask very right, insightful questions
Hmm.
and widen the gap between the customer issue and the benefit, anticipated issue and the anticipated benefit.
Fair
Correct?
point.
That's where
Yes.
we left Rust. And we also said there has to be a lot of discovery learning in the way we are asking questions for the customer.
Yeah. There
Where we
should be a lot of,
don't,
yeah,
yeah, we don't become preachy, we don't become salesy, but we also make them realize that they ask us the eventual solution, right?
agree.
Now, what do you think at this? Is that the right stage when a sales professional is absolutely well placed to pitch a solution, or you should still hold further? And how do we handle situation from here on, right? So we have asked a lot of questions. Now customer is a little excited, moved up in the journey of thought process, correct, over a couple of meetings. And we also said it will not happen in one meeting. So it's going to take a couple of conversations to graduate the
But
customer.
it may or may not.
Yeah,
Yes.
but now what does a sales professional do? Is that the right point to pitch, or is there something more which will make the journey easier for a sales professional?
So I would say, Pawan, there is no straightforward answer.
Okay.
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 Because in a real life customer situations,
Hmm.
at
Hmm.
times you ask some insightful questions and
Hmm.
suddenly customer realizes, oh, I never thought like this, and suddenly the client reaches to a much more receptive stage.
Okay.
And customer asks, hey, can you share some of the industry best practices, or why don't you talk about your solution? So that's a relatively much faster. But at times you require, again, as I mentioned, it's a batting on a bowling pitch, right? You realize you asked questions, and asking question is a pretty skillful thing. Not all sales guys have that skill also, right? And it's a learning science of sales is a lifelong pursuit, right? At times you ask question, but still customer is still at implicit need stage. Okay. Uh, and now the fourth step comes, right? कि आपके आर्सेनल में से आपने और एक नया वो तीर निकाला कि can I share information in such a way which can create, but can I share information without pitching the solution? Can I, as a seller, can share the information without pitching the solution, which can create a discrepancy between the customer's current reality and the future potential reality? Yeah, because there has to be a delta has to get created between the customer's current reality and the future potential reality if we expect customers to opt for the solution or opt for the change from his or her current state. Okay, now let me give a example. So assuming, Pawan, let's say that you are having your current car. let's assume that you're using Honda City or Creta. Will you go for a change just like that? There has to be some discrepancy, right? Okay, I think here my current Honda City or Creta is giving me a lot of issues. It is consistently breaking down. So that means your current reality has become like this, and somewhere you want to fix it. Or you feel, nahi yaar, I'm doing pretty well in my overall career. I think it's a time to upgrade. My current car is moving is pretty fine, but I think either a bigger family or my social image has gone up. I want to improve. Now, your current reality was here, but you actually want to improve. So you feel your future potential reality is somewhere up. So this is how everybody thinks, knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, subconsciously. So as a seller, can I create that discrepancy between the customer's current reality and the future potential reality? Again, without pitching the solution. For example, can I share some of the industry best practices? Can I share some of the best practices what the customer's competitors are doing and which is helping the customer's competitors? Okay. And that with that, can I intrigue the customer saying, "Okay, tell me more how my competitors are doing?" Okay. Uh, so let's say, what is my competitor's conversion ratio? Or what is my competitor's industry approach kind of scenario, which is helping them, right? So this is how you need to, the seller, the great seller, share information to create that discrepancy between the current state and the future potential state. And just to further clarify upon, see, at times the client, now let's assume a tougher situation, but the actually customer does not have any problem with the current solution. So no problem. Client actually is happy. Now what we should do, right? I call it as a BlackBerry effect. If you could recall the earlier BlackBerry days, I mean, all of us who all have used BlackBerry, to be honest, I thought everybody was very happy with BlackBerry. BlackBerry was like a corporate status symbol. Entire corporate world, not only in India, but across the globe was on BlackBerry. So customers' current state was here. Nobody had any issues. And suddenly one day the smartphone arrived and the customer realized, shit, my current state is here, but the future potential state could look like this. कि ऐसा भी हो सकता है, ऐसे मैं टच करके सब कर सकता हूँ. And that created a huge delta, and BlackBerry started losing the market share left, right, and center. Right. So, but again, without pitching the solution, can you share something? The same customer, where the customer realizes, oh, this sounds much better than my current state or my incumbent or my current solution. And can you create that, aspiration in the customer's mind? Yeah. But assuming a client does not have any problem and your product also does not inspire that aspiration, then nothing can be done. Then, to be honest, you got either inferior product or you got an inferior pitch, either of that. Then do the better qualification. No point, I mean, hitting the same customer again and again, because client current state is here and customer feels your solution also is here only, or probably your solution is inferior to the customer's current state. Then not much will happen. I'll just
Strange.
hold. Yeah.
No, Vishal, that kind of completes the whole cycle right now in terms of what would it look like.
Yeah.
Because we spoke about the pendulum. So this is basically an extension of the pendulum where you're still sharing a lot of information, but without pitching the solution, right?
Without pitching the solution, because the client perhaps feels either his current state is good enough
Hmm. Hmm.
and he can live with the current state.
Correct.
Now you'll have to can you take the customer to that journey where the customer sees that your solution will actually help him improve his current state or will help him fix his current state?
True.
Yeah,
So
without pitching the solution.
if I'm not oversimplifying, can I
Yeah.
put it in a way that customers typically have a list of issues And if my solution addresses the bottom of this list, that's where I should deploy this kind of a technique so that my issue comes at the top of this list all of a sudden.
No, I didn't get. Can you elaborate more?
Okay. For example, a customer typically have a lot of operational issues, right? Or
Uh,
they have a lot of challenges in their workplaces. And there's always a priority order to it.
yes.
And every customer tries to solve the first five of that list typically, and they're
Uh,
always glued into it. But then I have a solution which is addressing probably the ninth or 10th point on their pain area,
okay.
right? Is that the right situation to apply this conversation?
See, to be honest,
Huh?
if your solution could address the customer's
Hmm.
top five priorities,
Then it is
topmost
great.
priority, nothing like
Hmm.
it, right? Because
Right?
then it makes a lot of sense. Now, I
Hmm.
come from the school of thought here. Let's not try to strategize everything.
Hmm.
It's always good to check
Right.
with the customer.
Ah,
Okay, if I'm
fantastic.
trying to address your this
Hmm.
priority, will it meet your expectations?
Fair enough.
Yeah. If the
Hmm.
customer says, "Nahi, yaar, it is a nice to do thing. I've got other priorities in life." Okay, this is not, let's address the elephant in the room. Then accordingly, I'll have to prioritize my approach. And if I do not have anything, then I also need to be mature enough in my approach. Ki, yaar, I'm not God. We are still a sales professionals, and not every deal we can convert into an order. And not every deal I can convert where I can convert pain into an opportunity. At times, we need to be honest here. Either this client will not get upgraded, or there is a genuine problem with either my product, my delivery ability, something related with my organization, or I have a skill set issue. I'm a typical guy with a who can do well on a betting pitches. And nothing wrong. We all learn like that.
No, fantastic. I think that answers. So a sales professional will have to take a very judicious call that after applying this, should he pitch, should he spend time or walk away from this,
Yes. And
right?
I always say the great sales organizations have qualified out as a culture.
Right.
Yeah. So they don't say yes to every deal coming their way. Yeah. But that's like a discussion for some other day.
Fantastic. So I think this helps. And then we have a small point after that about the ROI. I think we'll pick it up on the next conversation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Vishal. Thanks. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Pawan.
this.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Murtaza, director call.
Yes, 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 एकदम बराबर था ये वाला आई थिंक विथ एग्जाम्पल और हाँ मतलब इसमें मुझे लगता है मतलब समथिंग वी हैव टू मतलब कोई कोई चीज मतलब इन द फ्लो वी रिपीट फ्यू टाइम्स
हाँ,
मतलब
वो
विशाल
ठीक है,
को
वो सब
टेंडेंसी
repeat
बट
है.
दैट आई मतलब दैट्स वो एडिटिंग में मैं
You
काट
can
दूंगा
remove. You can
यस
remove the
यस
last point also if you want to about that list wala
हाँ
point.
एग्जैक्टली हाँ 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 विच इज
You
नॉट
can remove.
रिलेटेड डायरेक्टली
Yeah, because I was trying to bring up if that makes sense, but I think the way Vishal addressed it, it would not apply to this conversation.
करेक्ट करेक्ट
Correct? So you can remove that as
हम्म
well, probably.
ठीक है
So I think
हम्म
अभी सिर्फ वो ROI वाला बचा.
आरओआई
Because
वाला है ना
ROI question, do you want me to call out as is this mandatory or you would cover that up?
नहीं मैंडेटरी नहीं है पवन.
I know.
Okay.
So you want me to ask him the question or you will cover it up in your answer ki it is not mandatory. How do you want to play that?
नहीं, you can ask also if you can generally ask, is it mandatory? All
Okay.
these five. And I would say
ठीक है.
not necessarily, right? But you should just keep it handy.
ठीक है. Done. So we're good
या
to go, Murtaza?
यस
Yeah.
यस
Okay. Fantastic. Hi, Vishal.
Hey, Pawan. Hi.
Hey, Vishal, thanks so much for your time in the previous conversations where we have covered a lot about customer urgency, right? So we covered about 4 points till now. One is understanding the need stage of the customer, followed by holding ourselves to pitch the solution.
Yep.
Then we said, let's ask right insightful question, which basically creates, widens the gap between the issue and the benefit what a customer is anticipating.
Mhm.
And then we said, and simultaneously, the conversation will move between three and four parallelly. A lot of times it will be a zigzag conversation. Where the fourth point is you share a lot of benefit to the customer, but without pitching the solution still.
But I would use the word call out, not necessarily
Mhm.
lot of benefit.
Okay.
You share benefit, you share in
Mhm.
such a way
Mhm.
without pitching the solution, but it should create a discrepancy between the customer's current
Correct.
state and the
It's in
potential
desired state.
future state.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So till
Yeah.
now, we have not pitched the solution and we are
Uh,
still having a conversation.
yes.
Then we spoke at the first go when we had all five guidelines together. We also spoke about that after this, we should be ready with an ROI or a value proposition.
Hmm.
So that leads me to think, would that be the right stage now when we start talking solution, or how does it look? And the second part of the question would be that, is it mandatory that I would be able to describe an ROI by this point? Because value proposition I might have, but I might not be able to quantify that value
Agreed,
proposition
agreed.
into an ROI, right? So can you throw some light on this last piece of it, what we are talking about, and how does this work
Yeah.
out in a regular scenario?
So, pretty brilliant question, Pawan, and I would say insightful question also, right? Because I also have to actually think while answering your question. So, just to make it very clear, okay, is it mandatory? No, it is not mandatory, right? It is good to have because we are still talking about that prospect who's still at a pain or problem state and still not an opportunity stage or not a requirement stage. And so that means as a seller, can I actually come out with a absolute clear ROI? No, because I've still not given my proposal also. So I can not calculate the ROI. But here what I mean is at least be ready with a value proposition or a rough idea about the potential ROI. Yeah, based on seller's understanding of the industry best practices. And because there is a possibility where the customer says, when you actually go through that 1, 2, 3, 4 state, and this point, step number two is important because you're not in the entire conversation as a seller, you're not pitching the solution. Because you're not pitching the solution, you will realize that customer will start opening up. And that means customer actually will start talking more. And there is a possibility that customer would be receptive to listen to your thoughts once you do it. And suddenly the customer asks you, okay, do you have a solution? So to answer your question, Pawan, yes, you need to be then ready with the solution. But I always say, okay, pitch your solution at an appropriate time. If you will pitch when the client is still not ready, you will come across as a salesy approach. And if the customer says, कि "Pawan, ठीक है, I understand. I think you made me realize that I should prioritize working on this problem. Would you know some of the industry best practices? So somewhere, can you, then I would suggest the great sales guys club point number 5 with point number 4. So they try to club their value proposition as part of the step 4, where they say, कि overall scenario, if you attack this problem, then will it be better for you, cheaper for you, faster for you, or will it create a more innovation or a more work-life balance for you? What exactly is the value proposition? They will at least create some rough ROI, yeah, in the customer's mind. If, for example, if the solution, if addressing that problem will bring the efficiency improvement, then can we try to quantify, assuming that 30% efficiency improvement, what would that mean? Would that mean, let's say, overall some impact on the KPIs? Then what would that KPI increase means eventually? In a subjective terms, that means in a qualitative terms and also in quantitative terms. Rough idea. Because once you realize, like, because we are talking sales, right? If I say that 60% to 75%, and if that means 200 crore, no, that's not a small number. So the sales leader will start thinking, or a CFO will start thinking, or a CEO will start thinking, oh, by attacking this problem, there is a possibility to get another 200 crore. Forget 200 crore also, 20 crore, forget 20 crore, 2 crore. Then also, okay, there is a possibility of prioritizing this problem. So the point I'm saying, the great sales guys, they are normally ready with their value proposition or the rough ROI.
Fantastic, Vishal. I think that gives a lot of insight on in our suspect to opportunity stage, creating customer urgency. What does it really mean, right?
Yeah.
So if I have to just summarize, we're saying category 4 customer who has a pain but no requirement. First, to understand that. And if that is holds good, then you understand the implicit need and explicit need part of it. What we said is, where's the customer sitting in the need stage?
Yeah.
And then we don't pitch a solution, but we hold ourselves, followed by asking a lot of questions, or insightful questions, as we rightly said. Correct? Insightful questions which basically make the customer realize that the pain is bigger than what they anticipated,
Hmm.
and share information in a format where we create a discrepancy between the present and the future, aspirational state of the
Yes.
customer. And by the time we have done this, we need to be ready with our own value proposition, that how will our value proposition actually bridge the gap.
Yes. And you
Correct?
can
That's
club
that's
that
the
with point
entire
number
approach.
4 also.
Yeah, the great professional, depending on how
Yeah.
does it work. So 3, 4, and 5 is going to be very large. Might have an overlay. That's what we are saying, right?
Yeah, there will always be, because it depends
Yeah.
on, because you want to
How
also
the
keep it
conversation flows.
conversational. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. It is not like an interview or an interrogation.
Exactly. So it will be that I ask a question, then I give an insight, and then I give you some benefit around it, and then I move the conversation further.
Yeah.
Okay. So there will be a zigzag line of questioning which will go, but there will be overlay between 3, 4, and 5. So it's not, a straight line. It's a simultaneous conversation happening. Correct?
Absolutely.
3, 4, and 5.
And if I could add
Hmm,
one thing,
hmm,
Pawan, see,
hmm,
because we work now so much with
hmm.
all the salespeople and everybody, uh, see, at times you'll realize, hey, asking question is not my strength, or you will realize asking question is my strength. Now, I would suggest the most important part in this entire thing is the step number 1 and 2. First, get the customer's need stage right, and then hold. If the customer is an implicit need, if you are not strong with your asking questions part, it's okay. Don't pitch the solution, but then share information in such a way without pitching the solution, which makes an impact. Or if you feel that my asking question is the right strength, okay, giving information is not my strength, then but get that first step 1 and step 2 right. And then you will realize suddenly the entire thing becomes conversational. Customer is more open to share information because you are not pitching the solution. And you are still coming across as a very knowledgeable, courteous, professional person and who's actually educating the customer.
So true, Vishal, because if your customer is sitting in stage 3, 1, 2, or 3, then this entire conversation is going to fall flat. Correct? So which
Yes.
is your point number 1, that the customer has to be in category 4 for this entire thing to get through ideally into so it's one of the
Yes.
tactics of sales. It's not the only tactic, or it will not apply everywhere.
Yeah. And
Correct?
nowhere, I would like to call out, we are not manipulating the client. It's a very customer centric approach. But eventually, we are creating win for our customer.
No,
Yeah.
fantastic. I think that gives a lot of insight on creating customer urgency, Vishal. I think
Yeah.
that's
Thank you.
great insight. Thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate
Hey,
this one.
my pleasure, Pawan. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you. Bye bye.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay,
Okay,
Murtuza, we are done for the day.
done. Yes. तो
और
तो
ये
ठीक है, तो
डिफिकल्ट टॉपिक था.
हाँ हाँ, वही वही एक्चुअली मैं सोच रहा हूँ कि इसको, हाँ मतलब ठीक है, आई विल पुट इट ऑन दिस थिंग, बट हाँ इसका मुझे लगता है वीडियो बनेगा एक सेपरेट यूट्यूब, एंड दिस विल आल्सो बी लाइक अ शेयरेबल थिंग, किसी को मतलब प्रोस्पेक्ट्स को भी शेयर करना हो
या बिकॉज सो दैट
तो
तुम लोग को समझ में आया मैंने इसमें क्या किया था, राइट? एंड आई थिंक दिस हैपेंस गाइस बिकॉज जैसे